Well, it is in fact SHIT. So happy
it's Thursday.
And we're going to get this show on the road. Here we go.
Shut up and sit down.
The Business Bros Podcast was created for you. Learn from the business professionals who come to share their stories. Find out what's working in business, on social media, what's hot and what's not, straight from the mouths of successful entrepreneurs out there doing the real work. And now, welcome to another episode of
Business Bros. And we are ready for Ham to drop the ball.
All right, all you business pros, before we jump into the show, just a quick reminder to please subscribe on whichever platform it is that you're listening to us on today. Give us a like, give us a follow, subscribe, and drop a review and help other like-minded business owners find value from our awesome guests as we rise up in those podcast rankings. We will greatly appreciate every single one of you for it. And if you want to be a guest on the show, go to www.businessbros.biz/podcast guest and schedule your time slot. And don't forget to follow us on all social media at Business Bros Pod. We're super excited to bring yet another incredible guest on the Business Bros Pod, this time for round 2. Backed by popular demand, our guest is here with us again to share an uncanny ability to communicate on a supernatural plane. In case you forgot, our guest has felt her gifts so powerfully that she published her first book at the tender young age of 6 years old. Our guest was so popular the first time around that we just had to bring her back for round 2. We know there are still skeptics out there, but tune in today and maybe you'll be convinced. We're super excited to hear more of her tales from the other side and more about how she's built a growing practice despite people's apprehension about the unknown. So joining us again today from SoCal Medium LLC, we're excited to welcome back this awesome, incredible medium and spiritual guide. Welcome to the show, Kelly Fisher.
It is time to have some fun today. Welcome back. First of all, welcome back.
Thank you so much. What an awesome intro. You guys are awesome.
We love to have some excitement at the very beginning, get people juices flowing and let them know what's going on. And speaking of getting the juices flowing, you have quite a unique experience. For everybody who missed it the very first time, can you tell the audience a little bit about what it is that you do and when did this all start for you?
So I am a spirit medium. I'm also, I guess, termed a psychic medium, which means that I'm psychic and I also can connect to spirit. I can connect to those who have left their physical bodies and passed on. So the psychic, there's 2 different levels. The psychic level is really working soul to soul communication. So that's when I sit with somebody and I understand maybe where they've been, where they are, and where they might be headed. But it is different from really forecasting, the future. It's not as much looking into the crystal ball as people might believe. And then the mediumistic part is where I connect to mothers, brothers, sisters, children in spirit, animals, even dogs, cats, those who have experienced a physical death here in the physical world and have passed on to the world of spirit. And I'm able to bring back information that's specific to who they are so that they can reconnect with their loved ones.
So we got to experience a little bit about what you do on a more personal level. So you give my wife a reading, and I was initially going to go and just kind of drop her off, right? I was going to say, here you go, this is for you, and then I'll hang out in the car. But then I kind of got curious, and I went in and sat down a little bit, and as a skeptic, like when you were describing what was going on, right? And I tried to say zero, like as little as I possibly can, because I was like, let's see how much she can pull out and who she's connecting with and if this is a thing. Because as you know, like I told you last time, I'm like a super skeptic in this sort of stuff, right?
Totally.
And so we're sitting there, and as you're describing who's coming through, like in my mind, I was thinking, oh, she's talking about Danny. I thought she was talking about my little brother. And because the way you were describing things going on, the emotions they were feeling was a little bit different. So that's who I thought you were describing. And then as we got more into the read, I was like, well, that doesn't really fit him. That doesn't really fit him. What ended up happening was after that, my wife was like, she's not talking about Danny. She's talking about Hector. Right. And I was like, oh, and all of a sudden, a lot of the things that you were saying was like, oh, totally connects. Like it totally makes sense. And just to kind of reiterate, some of what ended up happening, after we left, the wife and I were kind of discussing, we're like, okay, yeah, those things, almost all those things, right? They all make sense. All those clicked. And I reached out to my godmother, who was, she has, 3 of his kids, right? And 2 daughters. One of them was my goddaughter. And I had told her about the experience. And since then, her and I have reconnected again because they grew up here in San Diego, but then they moved to LA because most of her family's over there, and so they moved. And we kind of that's a little bit of distance, so we didn't stay as close. But after that experience, like now we talk, we're talking again. We get back on the phone, and it kind of reconnected that situation. And I don't know if she's into the whole spirit world or not or anything like that. But the cool thing is, whatever you brought into our sphere turned into a positive outlook, and I thought that was really cool. Do you get a lot of responses from the people that you have readings that are similar to that?
Yes, and thank you for the feedback. I always love hearing those stories because it's so nice to see. I mean, what I think is so incredible and even miraculous in a way is that our friends and loved ones and important people in spirit will come to us to reconnect us to their family. And that's part of the reason, because here we are on a business podcast. You probably didn't think your friend would come through that would reconnect you to his family. So that happened actually recently. I was invited to read at a wedding, which I initially was like, this is really different, really outside of my sphere of experience, and also a lot of pressure because it's a big day. It's like, if I mess this up, that's the only chance I get. And they'll talk about it forever in a negative light. And so luckily I went. The group was beautiful. The wedding was beautiful. The reading was amazing. And it was such a cool way to bring through all of these family members who couldn't be at the wedding because they've gone to heaven, to the world of spirit. And so anyway, long story short, I ended up bringing through this woman who passed of cancer, and she was really looking for her husband and her 2 sons. And the contact ended up going to the groom, who understood who she was. And I mean, by name, she was just an amazing communicator in what she brought through. But it turned out that her husband and her 2 sons were not at the wedding. So the next day, the day after the groom's wedding, he called his friend and he said, you have to just get in the car, come meet me, no questions asked. So the friend hopped in the car, brought the kids, and met up with him. And the groom told him the entire story. And then they subsequently came into my office, and I was able to connect them. They're 2 younger boys. I was able to connect them with their mother, him with his wife. And it was just such a cool experience of them really missing her, and somehow her coming through me at a wedding to their friend. So it's just amazing, the connections that are made and the way the spirit people know who's going to be where, what medium's going to be working, and how they can get their message through.
So it's funny because today, just literally today, and I don't spend very much time on TikTok because it will capture me, right? It'll get me, and I'll be stuck in there for a few 30 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, right? But today I was doing my post, and I do post my stuff on TikTok, the clips and everything. And while if you leave TikTok, by the way, when you make a post, it won't continue the post until it'll make you stay there until the whole post gets loaded. I learned that because I'd come back. I was like, I thought I posted today. Well, I didn't stick around to let it go through. So anyways, while it was posting, I had something come up on my feed, and it was this girl. She goes, I had this epiphany. She's like, if energy is never lost or created, it's always there. That would explain a lot of things in the universe, a lot of things in science, a lot of things in religion. And it got me thinking, especially because I was going to speak to you today that, consciousness is a form of energy. And if energy
Right.
cannot be lost and it cannot be created, then when we leave this body of ours, what happens to that consciousness? And it kind of opens up that theory of, where you are in life. Can you still be connected to other entities, other things? And, she went on to explain other things. She's like, the Fibonacci sequence, it's like the little numbers that you can see, those Fibonacci sequences in all through humanity. What about the solar system? What about, all these different things? And I was thinking, that gives you that possibility, scientific possibility, for those of us who are skeptical on the whole spiritual side, that could be a possibility to, make that happen, like to make that connection with people. And maybe you're just tuning in to a frequency that a lot of us maybe are oblivious to, kind of like wearing those glasses that kind of take out the blue light. Like we don't actually see the blue light, but it's there. And so, share with the audience a little bit about how that comes into you and how you connect with it on a regular basis, and how, like at the wedding, how you channel it for multiple people. It's not just one person.
Yeah. Okay. So I love what you're talking about with energy, because, I try to, especially when somebody's skeptic or they're an engineer, they're more scientifically minded, to speak in terms of energy when we talk about spirit communication is helpful. Now we're dealing with people, they're no longer in a physical body, but these are people. They lived human lives. They had families. They had jobs. They had emotions. They're people. They're not energy, but they actually, well, okay, I'm gonna just go back here. They are energy, but I don't like to talk about them in terms of being energy, because then I feel like it takes away the humanity that belonged to them. But there is, energy just changes. That's what it is. So when we're in a physical body, our energy, our vibration is at a certain level. And then when we leave the physical body, it changes to a different vibration. So what I believe that I do is I lift my vibration. I lift my ability to connect, to reach their vibration. They also subsequently slow theirs, and we meet in the middle. So that's where the word medium comes from, is that we meet in this middle vibration. And yeah, so the way that you talk about energy is it's really amazing. It's really fascinating. And we know that it doesn't just end. So that kind of, for all of those people who believe that we just die and that's it, we have one life to live and then we get buried into the earth, or we get cremated or whatever, and that is the end of our story. Where does it go? Where do all our memories, where does the love, where do those thoughts and those relationships that we've created, where do they go? And really they live on. The spirit people continue on. Your loved ones continue on. They just live in a different world. So when I'm doing a group reading, to answer that question, and how do I bring through people in a big group? What I do as a medium is I look for the communicator that blends best with me. So I don't know if I've talked about this in the past, but I use the Venn diagram. Do you remember the Venn diagram when you were going through elementary school?
Mm-hmm.
So I use that to explain it, because when I talk about blending, people conjure up these images of like Demi Moore and Ghost and the whole like taking over the body. That doesn't happen. It's just, we just blend. So our circles just overlap, and then I get to know them. I get to know some of their personalities. So I'm looking for the loved one who blends best with me, and I get a few specific details, or I'll get my direction, because if I'm looking at a room of people, I'll be pulled to the right or to the center or to the left or to the back or to the front. So I should have some direction there, and then I'll have mom who passed of breast cancer, whose name was Cindy, and then I should be able to find my person. That's in a perfect world, I would get those kinds of details, because that's fairly specific. But if I have some pretty loose details, then I'm hoping to know where I'm going to. So I'll kind of know what direction I'm going in, or I'll know which person I'm speaking to. And then I'll start to work with them, and I'll start to bring their details through, just like I would in a private sitting. And then it's just all about timing and making sure that I'm not staying too long with one person, and then being able to switch my awareness from one person to the next. But it is tough when you get like a really strong communicator, a really great communicator, because as a medium, you want to hold on to them and just have them talk all night.
Mhm.
So it's tough to let those people go and then to move on to the next. But in a group, of course, you want to get through as many people and messages as you can.
So we also shared it with my father-in-law, who's even more skeptical than I am, right? He's
Yeah.
like, "Well, of course. I mean, you did you say his name? Did you talk about, what did you say? What did you get at it? What were you telling her that she was being able to pull this information?" And it's funny because I remember sitting there and not really saying much. And I'm kind of a talker, right? I mean, I get
Yeah.
on this thing and I can talk, but I wanted to see what it was like, and it was very much I don't know. It's almost like you kind of have to experience it. Well, speaking of which, last time some of the feedback we got from people that were asking while you were on the show was, could she do a reading right there on the air, like live reading? So I
Yeah.
guess that's I'm gonna ask, can you do that? And then the other thing is when you have skeptics like like myself, like my father-in-law, who are like, well, yeah, you've already given the information. How does that kind of take away from a group reading or take away from a reading that you would already have a connection?
So usually in a private setting, and even in a group, I do an introduction and I ask the group to not give me any information. I want to know nothing about the people that I'm reading for. First of all, it helps for skeptics to know, well, I haven't said anything. I've just said yes or no, or I don't know. So, how would she have pulled that detail, or how would she have known that name, or how would she know what was in my bedside table, that was from my father? Those things I can't know. I can't even look them up on Google. And trust me, I've got 3 kids, so I don't even have time for that. But, but yeah, and it also, it helps me, because if I know too much going in, and that happens because I read for my friends, I read for my family. And sometimes if I know too much going in, my logical mind gets wrapped up in what I already know. So I really prefer to know nothing. And that way it can just be like a really fresh, really raw reading, where even I know the information that's coming is brand new. I couldn't have conjured it up from memory or from something else. Now, oh, that's so sweet. Hi, Kimberly. So now I just sort of lost my train of thought, but yes, I don't like to know anything, and I like to set those boundaries. I don't want anybody to feel like, oh, well, now I can't say anything but yes, no, and I don't know. So I let them know there aren't any rules, but don't tell me everything about your loved one. I would prefer for them to sit. And I'm trained by English mediums, and they're very strict about the way that they set up their sittings. And it is particularly because when mediumship first began, there were so many skeptics. So there was all in the evidence and the proof. And so you really don't in an English reading with an English medium, it's a yes, no, I don't know, and you do not give any other information. It's very strict for that reason. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, that definitely
Not.
does. That
Okay.
definitely does. And then what about doing readings online? Have you done readings via Zoom? Have you done now that we have COVID, obviously, and it's kind of weird for people to, there's a lot of fear going around. They don't want to enter the spirit world a little early, if you know what I mean. So doing digital readings, does that affect anything at all? Do you still get those connections that way?
Oh my gosh, yes. I just read for a woman in Belgium this morning. So I read for people all over the world. Yeah, and Zoom is a phenomenal invention, right? Or technological thing that we have accessible to us, because before this, you had the phone, and I still do phone readings, but we had in our last session together, there are interruptions. There are, it's hard to do phone readings sometimes, but if you have a good wireless connection over Zoom, it's fantastic. I actually sometimes prefer it to in person, just because I can just be in my space. They can be in theirs. We can both be really comfortable, and everything it's just quiet. So yeah, it doesn't affect the reading at all. I mean, the people in spirit are with me, they're with their loved ones. And then when I'm doing a psychic reading, I'm just finding their energy. So they can be halfway across the world or all the way across the world. And it doesn't matter.
Do you turn it on and off, or would it be fair to say, right now, James and I are here. Is there anything coming through for us right now? Is that something that we could ask, or is it something that you have to kind of, put yourself in the right state of mind?
Well, I think that there are boundaries that any medium needs to set ethically, and for me, my boundaries are that I would not be reading you or James right now because it's not appropriate. You haven't given me permission to do so. So right now, I'm just Kelly talking about mediumship. But if you come to me in a session, or I go into a group reading intentionally, people know what they're there for. Then you've basically given me the go ahead, the green light to take a look behind the veil, either into your personal life and into your personal business, or into your loved ones who've passed. Because those connections, I mean, your loved ones are yours; they're not mine. So it's really not my business to be reaching for your people. Now, sometimes, yes, you can turn it on and off, and that's something that I have worked with. I've learned to develop. It takes practice, but what it does do is it preserves my energy. So I used to be the kind of person that would go to a concert or into a mall or something like that and come out with the worst headache or stomach ache or whatever. I was really affected by the number of people there and the energy, and I didn't realize how sensitive I was. And oh my gosh, airplanes are the worst, because the spirit world know that they have a captive audience in a medium on an airplane, and you can't get any peace because there's all these people, have all these dead people that are coming to you. So I had to learn that there was an on-off switch, and that I could set my boundaries for the spirit world to say, okay, these are times that I'm working and you can come to me. And these are times when I'm off and I'm just Kelly, I'm just a human being, because I have to be normal. You have to stay grounded in this world. And there are some mediums who don't, and they're hard to relate to because they're off with spirit all the time. So there's an on and off, and I think it's important too, because I think that Hollywood tells us that, mediums walk into grocery stores and give readings to people all over the place, and we call those leaky mediums or a drippy medium, and that's not good. They're not always. I mean, sometimes there's a time and a place, but people aren't always ready to receive those messages. There has to be that level of agreement. So so yes, could I read you right now? Could I tune in and pick up information from you all and say it on air? Yeah, I can do that. But my awareness isn't shifted in that direction right now. So, but I do live Zoom readings. We've done fairly big groups in the past. It works pretty well. It can be a little bit frustrating just because the comments, like the feedback from them, can be in the chat, and it's yes or no, and it comes a little bit after that last detail that I just picked up on. So it's not as live time feedback as I would probably like it to be. So that makes it a little bit more difficult. I definitely love the in-person group readings over the Zoom, but they're all, I don't know, there's value to all of them.
I think most people would prefer the live ones as well. You kind of mentioned, okay, so that you don't want to almost kind of get into a spirit realm without asking permission, that you have certain boundaries that you set for yourself. Is that because, as much as you want to stay on the positive vibes and in the light, is it because there's possibility to go down a wrong path, that there's negativity? I mean, obviously we're always raised with, if there's light, there's darkness, if there's good, there's bad, hot and cold. Is that also a possibility that exists, and you've been trained to kind of stick to one path that you prefer to go on? Or is that just kind of like our own fear getting the best of us?
Well, I think it could be a combination of both. I think sometimes fear can play into your imagination and what you experience, and it can augment the scary factor in anything. But I do sort of subscribe to this belief that like attracts like, and if your vibration, if your daily, day-to-day, the way that you are as a person, if you're a high vibing person, then you're going to attract high vibing energy, entities, loved ones, those kinds of things. If you're really in the dumps and you're into substance abuse and there's things that are taking you down, and you're at a lower vibration, I think there's probably a higher probability of you attracting something that would feel like a little ickier in energy. Can
you help people that are in like a lower vibration? Maybe I don't want to say in a death way, but kind of find that light, right? Not walk towards the light. Don't go that way yet, right? But kind of get them into a point where, you know, you're at an ultimate low. You're feeling so much disparity. You're struggling through what you're going through, alcoholism, drugs, whatever your situation is. Have you been in a situation where you can kind of get into a frequency and help elevate them from that point?
Yeah, I have. I have in the past. I remember I had one guy in one time, and I tuned into him. I was doing a psychic reading on him, and I could see all of this drug paraphernalia all over his table. And then I tuned into his guides, and we all have guides and helpers, angels. And they said, you've got to tell him that this is a dangerous path for him to be on, because it was a lot of different kinds of drugs. And he's sitting in front of me. He looked like a normal guy. You wouldn't know passing in the street that he was an addict. And I just looked him dead in the eye and I said, your guides say that you have to stop using drugs. And for him, that was a shocking moment, because he had no idea that anybody else could see that. It was something that he had kept privately, and an addiction that he had struggled with through the years and was working on, but had slipped back into, and nobody knew that he'd fallen back into addiction. So the last I heard from him, he was doing a lot better. So I think that it did in that instance, for example, help to lift him out of that lower vibration, because he realized, I'm not really hiding it. My angels and my guides, my loved ones on the other side, are keeping an eye on me, and they want the best for me, and they're seeing that I've slipped into this, and they're going to help me out of it. So sometimes just handing somebody a lifeline by letting them know that they're not alone can lift the vibration fairly instantly.
We are heading into the holiday season. We just had Dia de los Muertos, or Halloween, right? We're heading into Thanksgiving. We're heading into Christmas. There's going to be a lot of families together, a lot of memories being shared, a lot of lost feelings that are going to be, you know, people are going to be hugging each other, tears, all that sort of stuff. Is there anything, you know, we normies, the ones that we can't quite, elevate our frequency that high, maybe anything we can do to kind of maybe embrace that spirit energy to kind of feel that acceptance if you need that feeling?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's so many things that you can do. So picking one is kind of difficult, but what I would say to anybody out there is, first of all, I mean, everybody has the ability at some level to connect to the other side, to the great consciousness, to the great spirit, God, however you term it. Everybody has that ability. We're born with it. We are born with that light within, and that light within us can connect to the light that's within everybody else, even if they've passed to the other side. So when we come to the holidays, it really is a sort of a sad reminder of those people that we no longer have with us. But if we can kind of turn that around and realize that they're so very much present, they're so with us in our life, and trust, because they're always bringing signs, they're always bringing reminders of who they are. But because you're skeptical, or because you're shut down, or you have to be logical, you brush things off that may otherwise catch your attention, and you think, oh, that hummingbird that just came to the window and stared at me for 5 minutes is just looking for the flower inside my house. You just kind of find a logical explanation, but maybe the hummingbird is a sign that your grandmother is with you around the holidays. So trust the information that you receive, whether it's in a dream or whether it's in a bird, a butterfly, a feather, a penny, those little signs that we get from spirit. When it seems out of the ordinary and it seems like it finds you out of nowhere, that can be from spirit, really can be. And the more you trust it, the more you'll see little miracles along the way. I'm not that kind of person that sees signs and everything, like, oh, there's this, there's that must be from spirit. No, but when it hits you in the face, that's when it's your loved ones. And if you don't get those kinds of signs or messages or symbols or dreams, just speak to your loved ones. Find that holiday relic that belonged to mom or belonged to your sister or brother or son or daughter, and hold it close and speak to them, because they're there. They can hear you just like you and I are talking. They can hear you when you talk, and they love communication, and they love when you remember them. They love to be loved. They love to be remembered. So send out that love and you'll receive it in return.
I like that. I like that. For the most part, I like that. Right. So we'll go in the backyard and the, the wife's like, look, that butterfly is always coming to you. Right. And so you're making that connection. I'm like, well, it's just because, I'm that Disney character where all the animals come to me, except this week, because we had a couple giant vultures coming by. So hopefully that's not a sign of some bad stuff coming around the corner. Right. I was like, dude, look at that. That's awesome. It's a giant vulture. But normally it is other things like, they're butterflies or hummingbirds and stuff like that. But that definitely caught me by surprise. I don't really see vultures in San Diego very often, but there's been 3 in this neighborhood, and I saw one perched on the wire. Oh, that's classic, Jay. That's classic. You got me on that one. Oh, Kelly, it's always a great time hanging out with you and talking to you. You're on a whole different level, and the positivity that you spread is amazing. Whether you're a believer or not, it's not even about I don't look at it from a religious standpoint or anything like that. It's just you do a lot of what I try to do. You just do it in a different way, and it's to spread positivity to the world, to be a positive influence in people's lives, and you are doing that. I mean, there's people who've commented who like what you've done, and the people who comment after that it's not live anymore, and they still comment about what you're doing. You're impacting so many people in a positive way. I can't see any negative aspect to what you're doing. So thank you again for coming on the show, and keep being that amazing person you are.
Thank you. You guys too. You guys are so wonderful, and I so appreciate you having me on, all the effort that you went to make this show happen. So
well, awesome.
Thanks so much.
Thanks again for coming on. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed that. Kelly is amazing. Look at Christy's over here saying, we love you, Kelly.
Oh, hi, Christy.
So, I mean, again, you just nothing but pure love coming in that comes in your way. So, that is amazing. So, ladies and gents, hope you enjoyed, Kelly coming on for the second time. We had to make sure we had a good show with no lag on it, because the last one was so amazing. Thank you very much for coming on the show. Ladies and gents, if you guys have any questions or if you want to subscribe to the show, we'd really, really appreciate it. Give us a little subscribe, a rate, a review, a follow at Business Bros Pod. If you want to be a guest on the show, maybe you have a business that's unique, kind of like Kelly's, go to businessbros.biz/podcast guest. That is an 8-week waiting list to get on the show. But if you go to businessbros.biz/last minute, we're going to have some gaps in some times. We got Thanksgiving break. We got Christmas break. I have 0 guests scheduled, so we might send out some last minute guest lists so you can hop on and be on the show. Tell everybody what's going on in your life and how you're helping people in a positive way, just like Kelly. But other than that, we'll see you guys again tomorrow. Today is SHIT. So happy it's Thursday. We'll see you again next time. Peace.
Bye-bye.
And we're out.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Business Bros Podcast. Are you looking to get more clients or to increase your income? Hernan, the business bro, can help you generate referrals through the power of podcasting. And James, the insurance bro with Pipeline Insurance, can help you effectively add insurance to your existing business. If you are ready to create wealth today and generational wealth for tomorrow, email businessbros@csfirst.com to schedule a free consultation, or join the Business Bros Network, www.businessbros.biz.